introducing here the concept of Asher Yatzar. So he said on the Reish Lamed Gimel, he said, just read the top here first. He said, V'hine lefi hashlosh sefirot elyonos heim sod habriya. Now, I'm not sure exactly how you got that, where he got that from. So he says that we're talking about really about Olam Asiya. And he says the gar of Olam Asiya, apparently, something like that, is the secret of Briah. V'ha'adam shuhu ha'chachma, so Adam is the chachma of Asiya, who echad min hashlosh, it's one of the three. Now, what his statement was previously is, I think you recall, is that he said that you lift up your hands because that's a safe place. It's a good place by the gar where there's very little, the other side is very weak. So he said, Amar ubarabo, and that's the reason why we have the phrase ubarabo. Baro's lashon Briah. He who mibechinas abriya. So it's talking about there's an aspect of Briah here. Now it's really still vague to me. So he said that where this is, because he's going to say because the chachma, which represents this Adam, which is a little elusive exactly how they type together because of the word Adam. But at any rate, he refers that to the chachma of Olam Asiya. So that's what bo means. Ki bo ba'adam atzbo is there in the man himself. So he says, who's the man? That is the concept of Briah shebechasiya. Bara kanoida, that's the creator. Kanoida. Ki shalosh rishonas derasiya heim Briah shebechasiya. So the first, the gar of, he says once again, of Asiya is called the Briah of Asiya. And he said V'chasiris, which is the Malchus of Asiya, Asiya Shebasiya. So all of these ideas. So let's see what the Tiv has to say about this, and I think it starts in Reish Lamed Gimel. We're reading the light print only. V'zel Lashon Birchas Eliyahu. So this is apparently the sefer called Birchas Eliyahu, and he says this. Lashon Zerav Lo Zakise Lachavino, exactly the way that he wrote this. So he says that the rabbi have not married it to understand it. V'zel Lashon Hashem Sasan. So this is what the Shem Sasan says. He said the Pirish, and the Pirish says Erik Ampin, V'Abba V'Ima, and Abba V'Ima. That's who we're talking about. V'Hu V'Ofen Zeh. So it wants to say, and this seems to be a principle that this Shem Sasan wants to bring over here. V'hu ba'ofen zeh, it goes like this: the keser meluvash to chachma, the chachma to chabina, hanikras Briah. So we understand that corresponding to bina, it would be Briah. So he said, v'lezel v'kula nikrayim al shema kashem Briah. So therefore, since everything winds up and she's the receptacle for them, so therefore everything is called after the name Briah. It's not that it's Briah mamish. It says that the receptacle for the three are contained in Bina, which is Briah. So he says next, he says, so let's go back to this Adam de Asiya. Sha'alav nisyased nusach habrachos, because it's on the Adam of Asiya, which I guess, we're kind of like the Adam of Asiya too. Asher Yatzar as Adam, so therefore we have the nusach says that Asher created the man, and we went a little drush on the word Yatzar and talk about this. V'hu ha'chachma, this is the chachma, this Adam that we talked about is the chachma, and he said a reason why. He says commotion is boyer la'el, as we explained previously. She'adam hu b'gematria ma, and he said the chachma hu osius koach ma, is really switched the letters around. It's the koach and ma. I translate it as it's meaning to say that it's the panemius of ma. He doesn't say that. That's what I'm thinking the koach of ma means, and that's chachma. So the koach behind the Adam is chachma. Chachma ki achaz min shlosh sefirot elyonos. Chachma is part of the gar that we talked about before, which he says it collapses, so to speak, and is surrounded by bina. Shehem keser chachma bina. That's the gar again. So he says a kaven. So he says that Sekeven Shlosh Sefirot Elyonos Heim Sod Bina Canal. So now we say that they're using that formula for the Shem and Sasan that the first three are really correspond to the secret of Bina. And what part of the secret of Bina is that it parallels the concept of Briah. Briah. V'klal elo shlosha he gam ha-chachma. So part of the gar is also chachma. In came Nimsa said that the category of Briah, that seems the category that he's calling Briah, Nimsa shechachma he gam sod olam Briah. So chachma is also part of the Briah, because we said the Briah is really that using the Shem and Sasan is that collapse. I call it collapse. We have the Kesser is inside of chachma, chachma is inside of Bina, and then Bina is Briah, so therefore we call it all by that name. So therefore we say in regards to this man, Shuhu chachma, it's chachma, Barabo Lashon Briah, and who created in him, and he's part of the category of this Briah of Asiah. Now, see, so now he goes on, he says like this, Chachma Shuhu Zeha Adam, now the chachma, which is part of this, talking about this Adam of Asiah, who bechinas olam habriya is really an aspect of the olam habriya. So he says bo daika. So in him specifically, behind the shazah shazah, this ba'adam hazeh atzmo anikra chachma. So that this bo is in him specifically, which is this chachma is over there in this man. And then it goes on and he says like that, zezeha adam shuhu chachma. So this man, which is chachma, Yesh bo bechinas olam habriya, there are aspects to it which represents the olam habriya. Aklo briya the klalos, but we're not talking about briya in terms of all of the olamos. Ela briya the sia. So this particular language that we're using is really all about the briya of Asiya, which we explained again, according to the Shem and Sasan, is the gar. Adam, who Adam the Asiya, because the man that we're talking about, which is the chachma, is the chachma of Asiya. And there's an aspect here, he used the word aspect, bechinas, habriya shebasiya. The motion is boya la'el, as we explained up above. Shekal asakenu ata hu ba'olam Asiya. We're all dealing with Asiya here. That's where what's happening when you're saying Asher Yatzar. So then he goes on and he says like this, Ba'adam hazeh, in this man that we're talking about here, Shuhu Adam Shebech Asiya, which is the man of Asiya, Bo Bara, in him is created Bechinas Habriya, Shebech Asiya Kanaid. That is, in him we see that there is an aspect of the Briya Shebech Asiya is in that man. Hashlosh Rishon is the Asiya, the six, what he said, the three, the gar of Asiya, Shehem Keser Chachma Bina, Heim Abriya Shebaolam Asiya. So he says it again. That's what we saw. We saw that previously. Then he says Ashisha Kitzva Shehem Sheish Sfiras Chaganai. So the vak Shebaolam Asiya and Olam Asiya Heim Nekroim Yitzira Shebaolam Asiya. So now he's breaking it up like this. Let's look at Asiya. He says, and let's say that the gar is going to become the Briya of Asiya. So that means that the vak is going to be called the Yitzira of Asiya. And then he says a hasvira series, and then the final. Now you have 9. The tenth sphera shehira malchus shebaolam Asiya he nikras Asiya sheba'asiya. Okay, that's the shir for today. We'll come back and we'll see a little bit more. It's a little bit elusive exactly how it works, because he says that this is the generation, I think he's saying, of when you have a kavana. This is the position that you're in when you're saying Asher Yatzar, is that you're really bringing Shefa, my words, you're bringing Shefa into the Adam of Asiya, and the Adam of Asiya is part of the Gar, and the Gar is called Briah. It's a little complicated, that's what it is. Okay.